Moses, who led the Israelites from the darkness of slavery to the light of freedom, a divine leader who brought hope. But his death was not just an end. It opened a spiritual battle between heaven and hell. Why would a body matter so much? The Bible doesn't reveal why Satan wanted Moses' body, but was it perhaps for power? Moses was a symbol of steadfast faith, a sacred figure for Israel. Did Satan wish to break that faith, or was there a deeper reason? Archangel Michael, heaven's indomitable warrior, stood to protect Moses' body, refusing to let evil seize a sacred peace. A battle not only of flesh but of spirit, between the light of compassion and the darkness of temptation. Satan sought more than a simple victory. In this contest, he wanted to sow doubt, to test faith and loyalty. What would happen if he succeeded? Would Israel's faith waver, or would they become even stronger? What do you think? Is this battle merely symbolic, or does it carry a deeper lesson about faith and loyalty? Who would you stand with, heaven or hell, in a struggle where the answers aren't always easy? Standing before the promised land, Moses felt the blinding sun scorch him, yet inside, a greater fire burned with the desire to bring Israel to their awaited land. In a moment of weakness, anger overtook him. His hand tightened around the staff. The sound of it striking rock echoed amidst cries of thirst, a mistake that cost him dearly. Water gushed from the rock, but within Moses, guilt washed away every remaining sense of peace. In that moment, Moses did not realize his actions sealed his fate, ending his dream of entering the promised land for himself and his people. God looked upon Moses with both compassion and sternness. Perhaps Moses too sensed the cost of his disobedience. He stood silent, gazing at the promised land from Mount Nebo, where he would only ever see it from afar, never setting foot upon it. It was as if Moses understood that his life, filled with trials and sacrifices, was meant to end here. In profound silence, Moses closed his eyes, and in that moment, he departed this world, bearing the sorrow of an unfulfilled mission. The story does not end here. God himself descended to bury Moses in a secret place, as a final recognition of his loyalty. No one knows Moses' resting place, a mystery in the earth, where only wind and time serve as eternal witnesses. Those left behind would continue their journey, but their leader's presence had forever merged with the mountains. His life taught them that patience and loyalty to God sometimes come at a high cost, even when temptation is powerful. They looked up, across the vast landscape, wondering if they could live with the courage and faith Moses had shown. The reminder would stay with them forever, that sometimes a small mistake can alter a destiny. Not just for one, but for an entire people. When faced with decisions, would we have the courage to step back and think, maintaining loyalty as Moses had hoped? Would you act differently if it were you, or would you endure the trials and accept fate as Moses did? Share your thoughts. A hidden valley known only to God became Moses' final resting place. Not just earth and stone, but memories of devotion and courage. But why the secrecy? God, the Almighty, personally buried Moses, an unexpected and rare act. Could this be God's highest show of love and respect for him? If Moses was a leader who guided his people through hardship, why in the end, did he rest in solitude, in secrecy? Sometimes, secrecy is not for hiding but for protection. But who needs protection more, Moses or the living? That valley remains unknown, untouched. Perhaps God feared Moses' presence might still affect human hearts, even after his departure. God hid Moses' resting place, but is that secrecy a lesson for us all, about letting go and honoring the impermanence of life? Moses' heart, once strong and decisive, now lay deep within the earth. Did he accept his fate without needing human recognition? The secret of Moses' resting place brings a sense of sacred sorrow. Perhaps he belongs to a realm not accessible to all. Maybe God wanted people to remember Moses by his actions and teachings, not by a grave. Perhaps this is the message God intends. If there's no place of remembrance, can we keep Moses alive in our minds rather than in a cold grave? Is a person's value tied to their burial place? Moses left a legacy in each heart. Would a hidden valley lessen that? God concealed Moses' resting place, but do we really need a specific site to honor him, or is his presence in our hearts enough? God's secrets are never random. Everything has a reason. We are challenged to reflect on the true meaning of presence. Among questions of secrecy and concealment, perhaps God's message is about faith, beyond the visible, respecting the sacred. Do we really need an answer, or does this mystery itself bring the deepest value? Sometimes, not knowing teaches us trust. What would you do? If you knew Moses' resting place, would you keep it secret or reveal it? Could this challenge your own faith? Amid shadows and mysteries, Satan appears with a bold demand. He has no qualms about claiming Moses' body, as if challenging the sacred. Archangel Michael appears like light in the darkness. He defends not only Moses but the faith itself against temptation and malice. Satan smirks, his eyes full of provocation, determined to claim what is not his. But Michael is unfazed by his threats. Michael stands firm, unshaken by evil. While Satan channels all his power, Michael chooses humility, standing strong in faith. Michael's silence carries immense power. No provocation, no retaliation, only a profound belief in a power above all. Satan, with disdain, seeks to challenge Michael's strength, but Michael softly whispers a prayer, a proclamation of God's might. Michael's gaze holds compassion yet firmness. He doesn't need physical strength to protect, only his trust in God. Satan realizes he faces an unbreakable barrier. His anger reveals his helplessness against the power of faith. Michael simply utters, "May the Lord rebuke you," a simple phrase holding divine power, repelling the devil's intentions. This confrontation holds no physical attack, no clashing swords, only faith's silence standing against evil's arrogance. The lesson here is profound. When facing evil, personal strength isn't the ultimate weapon, faith is. Satan ultimately retreats, defeated by an unyielding faith, a quiet yet radiant victory. The Bible did not detail this story, but through it, we see the strength of humility and faith in the battle against darkness. In this quiet confrontation, Michael teaches us that protection doesn't come from personal power, but from reverence and trust in God. Satan may bring strength and arrogance, but they cannot overcome faith. This is a battle of the soul where goodness prevails. Which path would you choose? When faced with temptation and danger, would you have the courage to trust in something greater than yourself? Satan lurks in darkness, always seeking opportunities to undermine God's plan. But why target Moses' body? Moses' body was more than human remains. It symbolized loyalty, a mark of a leader who guided Israel through the wilderness. Perhaps Satan aimed to claim a sacred symbol like Moses to destroy the people's faith, a cruel yet calculated plan. If Satan possessed Moses' body, he could turn it into a symbol of failure, mocking those who believe in God. But what drove Satan to do this? Did he wish to slow the salvation God had planned? On the Mount of Transfiguration, Moses appeared with Elijah and Jesus, a rare glimpse connecting past, present, and future. Maybe Satan feared Moses' body might play a role in resurrection, a strong proof of afterlife and salvation. Satan knew if humanity witnessed people like Moses resurrected, they would believe more firmly in God's existence and power. With all his pride, Satan sought to hinder this at all costs. If he held Moses' body, did he think he could control a piece of God? But why would a powerful being stoop to contest a body? For Satan, it's a battle over human faith and souls. God knows Satan's dark schemes, but he still grants free choice to humanity. This fuels Satan's desperation. Perhaps Satan cannot bear seeing humanity forgiven and loved by God, while he is destined for destruction. Satan wants to use death to extinguish life, but for God, death is just the beginning of new life. Imagine Satan sneering, believing he could overturn God's plan by holding one body. But he may have forgotten, God is not limited by a body, not confined by human boundaries. What do you think? Would you let dark forces control your faith, or choose to believe in the power of life and hope? The golden calf, a symbol of misguidance, was more than an idol. It was a sign of a heart longing for something visible, something easy to grasp, even if it was a lifeless statue. When people worship an image, they gradually forget the true meaning of faith and love, and their hearts slowly become empty. Satan might have seen a weakness in the Israelites, an easy craving, a fear of the invisible. From there, he knew how to lead them away from God. Imagine if Moses' body was revealed. Would they see him as a leader or worship him as a god? A lifeless body can become the most powerful symbol, but in its emptiness, Satan would sow invisible temptations. When we can no longer see or hear, faith becomes harder to hold. Does this weakness make us more willing to accept visible things, even if they're misguided? The Israelites once faltered before a lifeless statue, so how can we be sure they wouldn't stray before Moses' body, a man they revered? The price of worship does not lie in what we see. The truth lies in the invisible, in faith without visible proof. That is the truest belief. Moses did not want to be an object of worship. He wanted the people to look to God, but is the human heart always strong enough not to blindly follow? The reality is, when we exalt someone too much, we place them on an altar they may never have wanted. The cost of idolization is high. We easily forget the true meaning of faith, replaced by a sense of possession and false pride. God hid Moses' body not because he was unworthy, but to keep his people's hearts from the misdirection of misguided beliefs. Sometimes, precious things are hidden not because they lack worth, but because they might lead us astray, becoming obstacles on the path to truth. Have we ever wondered if our craving for visible things has shrunk our hearts, leaving them too small to accept the greatness of the invisible? If you stood before Moses' body, what would you do? Worship it or remind yourself he was only a guide, with God as the true destination? And if one day you realize you've idolized the wrong thing, would you have the courage to let go and return to the true meaning of faith? In the cold darkness of the soul, where buried mistakes lie, Satan steps in, carrying a silent accusation. The accuser targets Moses, a man once caught in a whirlwind of sin and defiance. Can he stand strong under the harsh gaze of the adversary? With each of Moses' mistakes, Satan adds another layer of darkness to his character, trying to obscure the light of his good deeds. Moses once killed an Egyptian, an act beyond excuse, a dark stain on his soul, something Satan is eager to exploit. Then there's the matter of the shattered tablets. That act, like a crack in Moses' chosen path, becomes a spearhead in Satan's accusations. God had told Moses to speak to the rock, but he struck it. Was this impulse a sign of arrogance and disobedience? Satan smirked, not a mocking laugh, but the satisfaction of a victor, as he found reason to question Moses' loyalty. The accusations target not just specific actions, but the man himself. Was Moses truly worthy? Satan's gaze was as heavy as a blade, cutting into the places Moses wanted to forget, as if he held the right to judge on God's behalf. In an inner struggle, Moses faced not only his mistakes, but also the person he didn't want to see in himself. Can any of us have the courage to look deep into our own darkness when someone is ready to point out every flaw? Satan is not only the accuser, he's the challenger of Moses' faith, a test to see if Moses is strong enough to stand firm. Faced with accusations, Moses had to ask himself, was he a hero or a villain in his own story? Perhaps in the light of faith, those mistakes no longer stand as evidence of sin, but as lessons for growth. But the question lingers, chilling like a cold wind in the night. Can any of us stand strong when judged for unerasable mistakes? If it were you, could you forgive yourself when no one else dares to? When all seems lost, peace shattered, God extends his saving hand, reminding us that his love never fades, even when we stray. The idols we build, not only from stone and wood but also in our hearts, become walls between us and holiness. Amid sacred mountains, the Israelites knelt before idols. But in that moment, the call of sincerity arose. God looked at their misguided hearts and opened his arms in forgiveness, not because we deserve it, but because his love surpasses all. This story is not only about errors but about patience, God's patience and the resilience of loyalty. Michael, amid trials and temptations, realized that only God, not idols, brings true peace. Loyalty is not always easy, but like Michael, we are reminded that faith is the light in the darkest hours. When people are weak, Satan will come, like darkness filling a room, but God is always there, a candle that never goes out. The struggle between light and darkness didn't only happen in the past. It remains present every day, within our own hearts. With each step, we choose our path. One road leads to light, the other to darkness and cold. Michael saw that true strength doesn't come from visible things, but from faith in God's invisible power. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's facing it, believing that even if we fall, God will lift us up. The crossroads of life always lead to moral choices, and in those choices, we shape ourselves. Ultimately, God's grace doesn't depend on our past. No matter how many times we fail, He loves and forgives us. Michael's story reminds us that anyone can stray, but faith will always guide us back to the righteous path. What do you think? Faced with temptation and faith, which path would you choose? Remember, the story of Moses' body is not a tale of fearsome battle, but a testament to God's eternal protection and guidance. If you want to uncover more mysteries hidden in the Bible, hit the subscribe button, share this video, and click the bell icon to never miss a video. Let's explore the profound messages within these ancient stories together.